Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great issue for you guys. It is the 1-year anniversary of the show, which is insane to think. I cannot believe it's been a full year journey. Nuts. This all started off as like kind of just, let's test this out. Let's see if we enjoy podcasting. And I knew I had to make it consistent, so I always went into it with a pretty long-term plan ahead. But to just see the evolution and the growth of the show, of me personally, of putting it all together, of it starting off as a concept and an idea, and like this is something that, I do on a weekly basis, it's just pretty nuts. So it's a 1-year anniversary for this. It's going to be the 1-year anniversary for the wrestling one, which I started both at the exact same time. So it's just pretty cool to experience that, which is awesome. So with that being said, for the audio folks, I am actually on video as well too. So I'm restarting the YouTube, if you will. It's like one of those funny things of, okay, I had an issue with this program called Prism. I made this update, they updated the software or whatever, and then they changed it to where now you need a subscription model in order to use a specific feature of the chroma to remove the background, which I have this green screen behind me. Otherwise, they're going to put this watermark there and it looks horrible. I was like, well, crap, this is what I used and how I figured it out. So I was like, all right, now I got to figure out, ditch this software, and can in OBS, which is like the platform that I use and many people use if you're familiar, can I just do the chroma natively there? And I was running all these issues with doing that. And then like literally, I think it was last night or Wednesday night, I'm recording literally Halloween evening. I go in and I'm like, all right, let's just mark out some time and just go and try to tinker with this and get it to where it needs to be. Folks, it took 7 minutes. 7 minutes. That's all it was for me to figure it out. And now it looks just as good, if not better, than what it was on the previous platform, which just goes to show, just do it. Whatever it is that you've been putting aside that you think is this huge mountain to climb and you're procrastinating, just go ahead and get it done. It doesn't take nearly as long as you think. It's not as difficult or as challenging. I just had to come into it with fresh eyes. I could have slept on it the next day, come in and then tinker around with it. And I got it up and running and it looks more than serviceable. It looks actually really good. So I'm like really happy with it. I'm like, I could have had video this whole time and now there's this colossal gap of what I was doing before to now, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is, but it's just really annoying. The funny thing is too, I don't know what happened. I think I started posting the links that I've completed an episode, and then, as soon as you finish in creator, it's just like, oh, post to X or whatever. And so I've been doing that, and then now the listenership is the highest that it has ever been. I think that's the only thing I changed. So that has to be the act of what I did. So if you're along for the ride and you're still listening, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome. And yeah, 1 year. So we're going to keep this thing going. And if you're listening, go and feel free to check out the YouTube as well if you want to see kind of the visual format. Obviously with comic books, right, it's half story, half visual. So that is available on Saturday Morning Comic Review, where you can get the regular episodes and the Omegas as well. So with all the rigmarole out of the way and the 1-year anniversary, we're back on video. Hell yeah. Let's go ahead and jump into the show, and we'll start off with the pulls for the week. So we are locked and loaded with, I got to remember how to do this all again and build back up the muscle memory, because I haven't done video for, I think, about 6 months at this point. It's at least 4. So you can see up here, before we actually do the polls, I like to start off with the pick of the week. And you can see it up on the screen, but for the audio folks, I've never, in the time that I've been doing this, seen a book run away with a lead like this in my entire time. Absolute Batman 2025 annual, #1, with 73% of the vote. Are you kidding me? I've seen 40s. I maybe have seen 50s. Never anything above that. 73% is like the most overwhelming landslide I've ever witnessed. So I have that book, thank goodness, but it's not going to be reviewed on this show. This show is actually going to be largely backlogs and then 2 books from this week. So that for certain will be on the Omega. So that's in the lead, and certainly going to finish out with the win as the week kind of closes out here. So we have that. Then #2 is Batman and Robin, Year 1, issue number 12. Then Imperial, #4 with 3% of the vote. Superman, Red and Blue 2025 special, 2% of the vote. And then The Mortal Thor 3 with 2% of the vote. And that Batman and Robin Year 1 had 4% of the vote. So of these books, I have the Absolute Annual, and then I have Imperial as well, and then Imperial, that's going to be on the Omega 2. So good that I have, the most popular book by far and away, but we're going to have to wait to review it until next show. So with that, let's get into the actual polls here. So you can see 8 books. I was like, okay, let me just, go through these, and then if I don't call it out, it's on the Omega, but I actually have a bunch of different reasons as to, what is happening, especially if you're just kind of an audio listener tuning in at this point. So I'll just go through them and let you know. Absolute Batman 2025 Annual, like I mentioned, is the Omega. Then we have Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue number 10, and that is the conclusion. That is going to be reviewed on today's show. The Death of the Silver Surfer, issue number 5. That is going to be on the Omega. Emma Frost, the White Queen, number 5 is a backlog. Then we have Imperial number 4. That'll be on the Omega. Robo Wolf number 2. The shop did not have this copy, so they placed another order for me, so it'll be coming in the next week or so. That would be a regular book, but we'll just have to wait till it comes in. Then The Rockefellers, issue number 10. That will be on the Omega. And then lastly, Voyer number 2, which we read and we reviewed today. So each book kind of has its own intricate thing kind of happening with it, but just 8 pulls. So nice and easy, which is sweet. It's kind of interesting now because I'm getting to the point where that backlog is pretty small. As far as like single issues, I really only have a handful of X-Men and then I'm caught up, a handful of Miles Morales and then I'm caught up, and then the biggest pile I think is Batman and Robin, which I cut that off I think around issue 20 or issue 22, something like that. And then in today's show, I believe we're reviewing issue number 9. So that's like the biggest stack. But everything else is caught up pretty much on singles. And then we have some trades that we'll be getting into as well. Probably get into Saga finally. So backlog's looking pretty good. So with that, let's go ahead and transition to our reviews for this week. And so for the reviews, here are the books all listed out. I'll review them in this order, and I'll just call them out, especially for the audio folks. So we have Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue number 10. Voyer, issue number 2. And then from here, we're going to start off the backlog. So we have Emma Frost, The White Queen, issue number 2. Batman and Robin, issue number 9. X-Men, number 20. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, 34. Storm, number 10. The Nice House on the Lake. So this is a trade. I'm on issue 2 of this volume 1 of the trade. Rare Flavours, which is a trade as well. I'm on issue 4, I want to say. And then Battle Chasers. This is the one that we're just working through this enormous trade. It has 9 issues in it. I know I'm up to the point of right before issue number 9. So however much I review, I basically catch you up on like here's where the story and where we're at right now. And then we'll go into issue 9, probably for the Omega, and then we'll be done with this. And then it's 3 single issues after that. Now, Battle Chasers was done like a decade plus ago. And so the new books are like relatively fresh. So it'll be cool to get to those. So those will be the books, again, in that particular order. We'll start off here with Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue number 10. And just as a reminder, for these reviews, in case you're new to the show, I do spoil the heck out of all these books. So if you do not want spoilers, it's just not going to be the show for you. But I catch you up on the story thus far. I give you my rating on League of Comic Geeks. I tell you what League is at as far as the aggregate ratings. I'll kind of talk about what I think about the book. We'll go through the artwork a little bit, and then I'll let you know whether or not this is a good one to jump into. So that's kind of the format, and we'll do that for book to book to book. For Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue number 10. Definitely not the one to jump into. It is the conclusion to this particular book, so keep that in mind. As you can see up on the screen, I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 3.7, so right in the line with what the rest of League was thinking. I was thinking for this conclusion, pretty confusing issue, to be honest with you. We have a cool concept where basically each actual calendar holiday, they wanted to release one of these books. And it was the murder or attempted murder of some sort of villain. So it'd be like New Year's Eve. Someone died, and the book would be released on New Year's, or someone was shot. Then it'd be like Easter. Then it'd be like 4th of July. Then it'd be, all the way down. And it started on Halloween in 2024, and now here we are concluding in Halloween 2025. So A+ on actually following that cadence and sticking the landing there, which, comics, they are just notoriously bad with that. So A+ on that. The book itself, though, not the best. From a writing perspective, it is confusing. We have an issue here, or plot line, where we have multiple villains that are like playing the same person, but in the end, I think it is the same person. So we're at this point now where we have the traditional villains of Gotham versus the Falcone family, and they've kind of come over from Sicily, and they're fighting each other, and Batman and Robin, and then some of the other cast of characters like Jim Gordon and like Catwoman intervene to try to help, and then get it all split up so nobody, separated anyways, so nobody gets hurt, and try to figure out who exactly it was. So that's exactly what Batman and Robin do. They get in the middle of it. They do end up separating them and breaking things up, as you can imagine. The way that they do it is pretty simplistic. They have like some sort of like laughing gas thing that neutralizes everyone, as it tends to be like a very common Batman trope of some sort of gas. And we basically find out that the calendar killer was Gilda Harvey, which is Harvey Dent's, or Gilda Dent, sorry, which is Harvey Dent's wife. And the explanation behind it doesn't really make that much sense. I don't know if like Harvey forced her to do it, or she's like the other half of Harvey. That's what they were trying to allude to. It wasn't really a good job, and it was confusing to me, so I have a tough time trying to articulate exactly what they were trying to go for here. But basically, Harvey is like, free my wife. I'll take the complete blame. It wasn't her. It was me. And he takes the blame for it, even though we kind of have the evidence that it was her. And Gordon's just like, that's fine. I have the arrests, and we can go ahead and prosecute. So sure enough, he goes off to Arkham. She goes to like a psychiatric ward, and then all's well that ends well, and everyone like kind of goes their separate ways. The city is safe. Catwoman kind of, and Batman, on uneven terms as they typically are, and she kind of goes off, and that's the conclusion. So it was just weak on the story side. It wasn't a satisfying ending. I was confused throughout the book. They didn't land the plane here. So just kind of disappointing overall. Let's flip into the artwork here. Artwork is really good, and I think that's what saves this book from being a 3. If you could take a look here from like just the different kind of color palettes that you have here, a bunch of yellows and grays and oranges, but it's also at night, so you have these nice blacks and grays that contrast. Obviously Robin, he's in the yellow cape and like the green gloves and everything like that. They also have kind of the overlapping objects. You guys know how much I love those. So all of that is really, really well done there. It's just the storytelling itself is not the best. So again, 3.5. The overall series, I honestly, I don't recommend it. It'd be tough for me to recommend it. So I just kind of stuck with it, because by the time I was getting to that point of cutting off a whole bunch of different books, this is already 7 or so in. So it's like, all right, let's just ride it out to the end. So yeah, unfortunately, kind of disappointing in the end. So that is Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue number 10. Next here we have Voyer, issue number 2. So this one is a cool book. I do like it a lot. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. First book was super interesting because basically we had our store that was giving out a bunch of bookmarks for this book, and I was like, you know what, I'll just go ahead and check out the book as well. And I really liked it. It's like this was one of those not rare occasions, but it's infrequent to where you pick up a book and it's like kind of a gamble, and it actually really paid off. So I was like, all right, let's just go ahead and stick with it. We got a heist that's going on here, and we got 2 kind of protagonists that shouldn't really be falling for one another but are. In the first issue, we had this art thief. He's working at this really high-end hotel. In one of the hotel rooms is this extraordinarily valuable painting worth millions of dollars. He's trying to steal it. But this extraordinarily attractive guest of the hotel comes in, and he just keeps looking at her through all these security cameras as he's trying to figure out how he's going to, make a fake, basically. And so what he's doing is he keeps staring at the painting, and he's like painting a duplicate or like a fake, basically, so he can go and swap them out. But she realizes that he is following her through the camera, and so she goes to the camera room and spots him. And the interesting thing about her is she's no ordinary guest. She knows good and well exactly what he's doing, and that the painting is never going to pass as some sort of fake. So this issue and basically the conclusion of the first one is they're going to be in cahoots together and work together to try to steal this painting. A little Bonnie and Clyde action. So the second issue, we learn the backstory of the female protagonist. Her name's Maddie or Madeline, and she is going on this trip because it's like either a friend or a relative or someone has passed away. So she has an urn. I imagine she's supposed to spread the ashes or something like that. But when she gets there, we get the whole backstory of she noticing the cameras and everything like that. But before then, she gets a call, and she seems to own and work in an art gallery. So this is her tie into the art business. But the police officers are like knocking on her door and like trying to get a warrant. Don't have any other details really than that. And she basically tells the guy to go piss off, and I'm in the back office even though she's not. And there's like a restraining order. So there's some crazy thing happening there. We'll get more details, I'm sure. Then we finally get that scene that matches up from the first issue of her meeting him and them deciding to be in cahoots together. And then basically afterwards, she's like, wow, he's super attractive. I'm really into him. But the whole reason I'm here are to spread these ashes. So I'm starting to feel a little bit conflicted and maybe a bit guilty about now I'm turning this into like some personal thing for me rather than I'm supposed to be here spreading these ashes. And that's the conclusion. So a little bit of a step back. I think he gave the previous issue 4.5, and this one I just came in with a 4. But still, I am intrigued to see what happens next, and I'm sure shit's going to hit the fan at some point. So excited to see all of that. So let's flip into the artwork here. I will say it is a little bit of a Gooner book, so keep that in mind. The artwork is great, and the writing is very just simplistic. I think this does a really good job of like letting the art tell the story, and so it's excellent detail as far as, setting up the scene and the emotion behind this whole trip and this journey. That's a really nice splash that you have there with some her like walking towards the beach or something like that, and just the different activities that she's doing at the resort. So that looks pretty cool. And then I won't go too further because there is some nudity involved in here. It is a mature book, so I should probably point that out. And now that I'm doing the YouTube, I can't necessarily show that. But yeah, it's an interesting thriller, hot, steamy book, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it. So yeah, that's Voyeur issue number 2. Is it the one to jump into? You'd be fine if you did. I'd try to get number 1, but you'd be totally fine if you jumped into number 2. You're just going to miss the male protagonist side of everything and just get Maddie's side of it. But yeah, feel free to jump in here. So that's Voyeur issue number 2. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. And then from one Gooner book to another, we got Emma Frost, the White Queen here. So this is issue number 2. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. So right smack dab to where you would imagine Lee would be, or at least where I was based on my review. And this book is interesting. It's kind of like the origin story of Emma Frost. It says it takes place after the events of like one of the original X-Men books back in the 60s. So it's right at the birth of the X-Men. And we have the Hellfire Club, and they're opening up a new club in Buenos Aires. And there was a mutant that infiltrated, and the X-Men then showed up, tried to save this mutant, but Emma Frost thinks it's an inside job. So that's the end of issue 1. Issue 2, it's the council of Sebastian Shaw. We have this woman, Tessa, and then, of course, we have Emma Frost, who are like the main characters. And then Emma has like an assistant called Noor, N-O-O-R. And so Emma basically pleads her case. Here's why I think it's an inside job, because basically the X-Men knew exactly where to go. And the fact that they knew where to go is what's leading her to believe that someone is a mole. And Sebastian's like, you know what? Fine. You think there's a mole? You go ahead and investigate it. You have her blessing. And so the first place her and Noor start is the newest recruit, is who they think for some reason was in the crowd that was protesting the Hellfire Club. So they go out to Rome because that's where he's at. They find him. He's in some weird underground fight club thing. He tricks Emma into fighting and says, hey, if you want information from me, you got to beat me in a fight. And sure enough, she kicks his ass pretty easily. And from there, he's like, all right, I'll tell you. I was told to bring in that mutant. And the reason I was told was Tessa told me that you said to do it. Emma, that being. So now Emma's like, interesting. Why would that be? And so now, us as the reader, I would imagine we know, like, oh, okay, Tessa's in on this, or someone else is like pulling the strings here, but we're not entirely sure. So then Emma and Noor go to the hotel for the night and try to rest up before they figure out what their next plan is. Noor leaves the hotel, and Noor is a telepath, so he telepathically is having a conversation back home with Tessa, and Sebastian's there as well. And Noor says that Emma is none the wiser about what exactly is happening. But us as a reader is like, well, you'd imagine Emma like pretty much infers that Tessa has something to do with it. And so back at home, Tessa's like, okay, excellent. Like, this is all going according to plan, right? And gives the whole villain grin and all that stuff. So now, as that concludes, it's like, okay, well, who done it, right? So who's actually pulling the strings here? Who's the mole? Someone's going to double cross someone. Which side is Noor actually on? We'll have to see. So it's setting up all these different narrative threads, and it could go a bunch of different ways. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I'm intrigued. I do have all of this and the Emma Frost issue number 5. So it is a backlog, and we'll slowly start getting through it, but I'm enjoying it. As far as the artwork is fine. It is serviceable, I would say. It's kind of classic Marvel. Nothing that's too crazy here. It's dialogue forward. That action scene was pretty meh, and so a lot of it is just this mystery, right? Trying to figure out who's the mole, why are they the mole, what are the motives, so on and so forth. You got this pretty cool octopus creature here. This guy looks like he's like leading the underground fight, but then the fight itself was like a pretty simple battle. Nothing crazy there. So yeah, I'm interested. I'm definitely going to keep it going. That's Emma Frost, The White Queen, issue number 2. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Then next up here we have Batman and Robin, issue number 9. So I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9 as well. So very similar rating on this one. We have our continuation here of Robin. He's back in school with his pseudo girlfriend, Flatline, and they're still trying to figure out, is the principal actually Madam Harsh, or Mistress Harsh, I think it is, who was Robin's instructor back in the day and then quit or was fired because she was way too harsh on Robin when training. And also we're under the suspicion that she is Shush as well. So to catch you up on the story, Batman has been captured by Man-Bat, and Man-Bat and Shush were working together. Shush was like, I don't want to work with Man-Bat anymore. He basically betrayed me, and he's using weapons in a way that I don't want him to use it. Batman, I need your help to try to stop him. And so when they get to him, Shush ditches Batman and is like, you're on your own because he's going to try to kill us. So you're just going to have to deal with him. And then Man-Bat takes Batman away. And Robin's trying to figure out still, who is this principal and who are they behind. He's not so much concerned about Batman when we start the issue, because Batman has been known to gone missing and disappeared, and he tends to be totally fine. So that catches you up. The issue starts here. We have more spying on the principal, and finally Robin just confronts her of, you're Madam Harsh, and I know you are. And she basically says like, yeah, and let's fight, but not fight me, fight the students that I've been training. So Robin, of course, fights them, and he beats them very, very easily, as you would imagine. But then there's this other teacher that comes in and starts to like defend as well. And she whispers to one of these students. And the way that she whispers, Robin immediately knows, oh, wait, Mistress Harsh wasn't actually Shush. You are Shush, this teacher. And then sure enough, she admits it, that she is. And she lets him know Batman's in trouble. And the reason that Batman's in trouble is Man-Bat is going to do like some testing on him and then release this poison into Gotham by way of pathogen through bats. So he's going to have all these bats. He's been testing out these different concoctions. Then once he has the right mix, he's going to infect all these bats. The bats will go out, spread the disease all across Gotham. So Robin's like, we can't have that. Shush tells Robin exactly where he needs to go. Gets to the point where we're at where Batman is, and now like the big fight is on of trying to free Batman and then trying to put a stop to Man-Bat. So that is the issue as a whole. Flipping over to the artwork here. I've mentioned this before and I'll continue to mention it, and now you have a visual as I flip through this. It's a very anime style, which I like because I'm so used to reading a lot of these westernized books that when you get kind of an anime manga influence, I really like that aspect to it. So this continues that trend, which I enjoy, and the art itself, the actual art detail is serviceable, but the style of it is what pushes it up to another level for me. So I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. And I've mentioned it before. I almost regret dropping this book because I've been enjoying it thus far, but I'm sure we'll get up to a point where it's like maybe things will taper off a little bit. It actually, we're not there yet. We'll see. And I don't want it to start to taper off, but kind of reminds me of Incredible Hulk or Immortal Thor, that all started really strong and then kind of had a point where it petered out, and then it was just like, okay, let's just get to the finish line here. Not so much on Thor, but certainly for Hulk. So I just hope that doesn't happen here for Batman and Robin. But anyways, is this a good one to jump into? Tough to say. I think you'd be fine, but this book came out quite a while ago, May 2024. We're on like Batman and Robin, like issue 25 or beyond at this point. So maybe you just want to start current. But if you find it, yeah, you'd be fine if you started in this one. So yeah, that's Batman and Robin issue number 9. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Then next up here. Oh, and sorry, I don't think I said it for Emma Frost of White Queen, issue number 2. Yeah, you can jump into that one. You'd be fine at issue number 2. Next, we have X-Men, number 20. This one I gave a 4. Lee, again, gave it a 3.9. So, right there as well. And this, important to call out, is immediately the issue following the Hellfire Vigil. So I did read Hellfire Vigil right immediately when it came out. The biggest thing and takeaway there was that 3K announced themselves to the world. And so the events afterwards, the X-Men are back in Alaska, and Lundquist, who is the leader of ONE, literally ONE, which is this new organization, as they all have in these acronyms, that Cyclops was dealing with before, and he was like, hey, just let us do our thing, and we'll stay out of your hair, we'll protect people, we're the good guys. And so Lundquist agreed. But now that this 3K announced themselves, and what 3K is doing is they're taking mutant genes and they're putting them into adults, which is causing a lot of chaos, of course, because everyone's on the assumption, okay, you get these mutant genes as a teenager and that's it. But now you can get them as adults, so now people are freaking out, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, is it a disease or things spreading? Like, what the hell's happening? 3K comes out, and Lundquist is like, you knew about this the whole time and you didn't tell me. Like, you knew 3K was the threat. And so they keep arguing, and finally it breaks down, of course, into a fight. And so you have these guys going back and forth and fighting in this diner to the point where the local law enforcement comes in, and they're like, basically, Cyclops, Lundquist, you guys are under arrest for, disturbing the peace, fighting, assault, so on and so forth. So they are thrown into jail, which is a majority of the issue. The other piece is Beast was invited to join 3K as to like help them to, I guess, come up with sort of mutant genes. I really don't even understand why Beast is still considering this, but he is. He's like contemplating and conflicted of like, should I join 3K? And it's like, obviously don't. They're the bad guys, but I don't know why he's thinking about it. And there's one other person that knows about it too, and it's like, is she going to tell? Is she not? But she's keeping it secret for now. So yeah, that's the bulk of the issue. Flipping through the artwork. Artwork is fine, very serviceable Marvel, I'd say. Maybe a little bit better than what it typically is, but overall, it's totally fine. I think for this issue, it felt like a setup issue and not so much filler. But, not a whole lot happened. You had just Lundquist and Cyclops fighting and arguing, and then finally Beast just contemplating stuff. But that's basically it. So that is X-Men issue number 20. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Definitely a good place to jump into, I would say, because it's immediately following the events of Hellfire Vigil, which is a nice onboarding position for a whole bunch of folks. So you'd be totally fine if you jumped in there. So, X-Men number 20, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Next up is Miles Morales, Spider-Man, number 34. I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. I was between a 3.5 and a 4, so that makes sense to me. No concerns there. I'll say for this one, excuse me as I take a sip, I usually don't drink carbonated beverages, and this is probably the first time, so I apologize if I burp afterwards. Miles Morales, Spider-Man. This picks up, it's called the God of War, but part 3. And so we have these trials that we are in the midst of right now. And it's Anansi, who is Miles Morales is the herald for, versus Ares. And they're under conflicts, because basically stepping on one another's territory is really what it boils down to. And each side got to choose 4 champions. They have to go against one another. Whoever gets the most victories obviously wins. And so Miles, before they're pulled into this tournament, has to think on the fly, who am I going to have in this tournament? And he thinks of like just these low-level people. So he thinks of his brother Shift. He thinks of Gus, who is right next to Shift, and like gets pulled into by mistake. And then he thinks of his therapist, Dr. Kwan. So that's who's going to challenge against Ares and these other Greek demigods, along with Hercules. And so they set up this fight. We're in the midst of the first one, and it's Dr. Kwan against this demigod. And then we start this issue here for issue number 34. We find out that Dr. Kwan is no ordinary human. She's actually a Hulk. So got the gamma radiation. She gets all pissed off. She turns Hulk, and she just beats the crap out of this other demigod and then wins very easily. No questions asked. So she absolutely destroys him. He, of course, underestimates her, kind of the classic stuff. And that is basically the end of that. So now Ares is all pissed off, and it's like we got to now figure out what the next challenge is. And then Anansi is the one that has to decide it. So the next challenge is it's 2 competitors on each side. So we have Gust and Miles, who face off against 2 people, but I just can't remember. Maybe it's Gao and another demigod. And they go to a place where Hercules had his trials previously to fight off these birds, but they're like killer birds, basically. Razor sharp talons that could easily rip apart gods, let alone humans. So, I remember. It's Zip and a different demigod that are fighting off against Miles and Gust. So, at first, they're fighting the birds, but they realize they actually have to work together, use Zip's powers, which is the power to control wind, along with Spider, Miles to tie up the birds as well, and basically stop the birds, not actually fight each other, which they do in the end. And so because they do that and they win the trial, it's technically a draw, which Anansi did on purpose. So now Anansi has 1 win and 2 draws. And basically, he's heading towards victory. So Ares is extraordinarily pissed off. And he's like, that's fine, Ares. You can pick the last battle. But before I do that, my heroes, they need to hear about the original Herald because of how dangerous all of this is. And that's the cliffhanger. So it was a weird one where the trial ends in a draw. Nobody likes that. And now we're going to learn about Arachne, I think her name is, which was either his first or his previous Herald. So yeah, that's the book. Artwork is good. Story's kind of weird. Very hokey, but here is Dr. Kwan just beating the crap out of that demigod, and everyone's like shocked of like, oh my gosh, did that really just happen? And sure as hell it did. And then now we get to the point here where we have this fight on this lake with all these killer birds and trying to stop them. And then, they get all tied up, use the wind, and that defeats them. And now we start to go into the point where we need to learn about Arachne, or Arachne. I don't know. So yeah, that's cool. And that's the book. Not the time to jump in. We're in the middle of the arc, so wait towards the end. But we're almost caught up here. So yeah, this book came out in June, so not too long ago. And then we'll be caught up with Miles, which is crazy. I think I got 4 or 5 more to go. So that's Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 34. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. Then we got Storm, issue number 10. This book was okay from a story perspective, incredible from an art perspective. So I gave this a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this book, on the art side of things, phenomenal. On the story side of things, meh. I mean, we have Storm here, who is the herald to Eternity. I always confuse which it is. So Eternity is the one that has chosen a whole bunch of champions to fight Infinity, and every single time, Infinity wins. So now we got Storm as the herald, and beginning of the story, for whatever reason, she's teamed up with Maggot. And Maggot and Storm go out into space and are like devouring this deceased slug alien carcass for a long while. It's like weeks it takes for Maggot to devour this carcass. From there, they take the fight to Hadad. And Hadad is like this old storm god. And the reason Hadad is like pissed off at Storm because Storm is the herald to eternity, and so now the balance of storm gods is off. I don't know. That's my guess. So they start fighting, and the fight looks incredible. Awesome job on that artwork. It looks so good, but it doesn't really make sense why they're doing this. And in the very end, Infinity shows up and is pissed off about Storm. Is like, who's this Storm person? I need to fight her. That's the story. It's bizarre. But let me show you this art so you can see, like, this is potentially why it's worth getting. Like, look at this at the very beginning. Storm as the herald to eternity. Like, here's where they are, and this is the space slug that they start devouring. And then let me get to the actual fight scene, because that's where stuff really picks up here. I mean, look at the artwork on this, huh? So you have just a bunch of this electricity. You have this nice little kind of like paradise where Hadad is hanging out, and Storm shows up and just starts fighting. Like, look at this splash page here. Storm with this huge trident, electricity shooting out in all different weapons or different directions, hair blown back from all the energy that's like surging through. It's like, dang. That's why I got a 4. Otherwise it would have been a 3.5, maybe even a lower if the artwork wasn't really in the same spot there. But man, it was pretty epic. So now Infinity shows up and they need to fight some way somehow. We had even kind of Galactus falling down to infinity, and then like, now that you have Galactus falling, that shit is really hitting the fan here as Infinity is looking to fight Storm. So yeah, that's the issue. It's confusing as heck. I don't recommend jumping in at this point. I think from here, the artwork is the only thing that can really save it kind of moving forward. So yeah, we'll have to see how it all goes there. Oh, I realized I clicked the wrong one here. Yeah, so that is Storm issue number 10. Oh, you know what? I thought I rated this lower. I was clicked on issue number 9. I actually gave issue number 10 a 3, not a 4. And so, yeah, I was like, I thought the story was a cluster, and it was. So I'm sorry about that. Here I am trying to justify a 4, but I was like, I don't really think I gave it that score. So yeah, issue number 10, I gave a 3, and Lee gave that one a 3.8. Artwork is good, and probably the only thing that kept it from going lower. But yeah, the story it's so confusing. I'm actually kind of curious, what does the next issue get? Next issue gets a 3.7 as well. So I think we're in a space here where another one of these, it started off strong, and it's just not gonna fully nail the landing here. And then I think I totally dropped it for issue number 12. I did. In issue number 12, Lee gave it a 3.5. So it's just kind of falling off towards the end here. So yeah, sorry about that. I gave it a 3, and I was confused. I'm like, why is this slug creature here? The art was awesome from the Hadad part, but everything else was pretty confusing. So yeah, Storm issue number 10, can't recommend it. I gave it a 3. League gave it a 3.8. Then, next one here is going to be Nice House on the Lake, issue number 2. So this one, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.5. Really good. I would say between 4.5 and a 4 for sure. But for me, I think I just expected things to move at a little bit of a faster pace than what they are. So the thing with A Nice House on the Lake is it's an insane story. James Tynion writing here. You have this guy, Walter. He's got all these different friends. He invited them out to a lake house. Turns out the whole world is ending. And it's ending by people's like faces melting and the whole place catching on fire. It's basically turned into like an inferno. And all these friends can see this on like social media and stuff. But they're all like quote unquote trapped in this house. Walter reveals like, hey, my species or something is ending the world, but I like all you guys and I favor you guys. So I figured, let's hang out here. You guys enjoy yourselves for a little bit and not have to deal with the suffering and the pain outside. So one of the friends loses like, what the hell? And grabs one of those stakes that you use to like tend a fire in a fireplace, tries to stab Walter. Walter like cuts off her wrist, which is nuts, and then just disappears. So course, these people are like freaking out. Like, what the hell is going on? How did this happen? Is this even real? Like, what is Walter? Is he an alien? Like, what is this? So that's what mostly issue number 2 is, right? So we got to secure the wound on this person. Fortunately, one of the people's a doctor, and she has like a little kit to make sure everything is taken care of. And the other ones are just like trying to, some are searching the grounds to see if there's a way to escape. Others are just like freaking out. Others are like, well, maybe we should try to enjoy this. And while people are kind of scattered out, Walter shows up to 2, and they're a couple who actually seem like they're maybe just like, well, it is what it is. Let's just enjoy this. And Walter's like, I need you to have a conversation with you. And basically says like, I want this to go well. I have this whole itinerary of us watching movies and hanging out and going hiking and all towards like the end of this week. But this has the possibility of going really south really badly if everyone just keeps freaking out, and then the house just tears itself apart and everyone ends up killing themselves or killing each other anyways. So I need you to try to keep the peace. And so the guy agrees, and it's like, yeah. So one is like kind of the mole, if you will, working with Walter, while the others are like, what the hell? The world just ended and we're trapped here and we don't know how to get out. Another interesting thing is like they touch the hand on one of these statues and then it looks out into their home and they can see all the devastation. So if you want to just traumatize yourself, you can go ahead and do that. And the other thing is there's this barrier to where they can't escape beyond the grounds. But the grounds are like gorgeous. It's this huge mansion on a lake. And everything that they could ever want and need is at this house. Crazy, crazy wild story. I'll show off the artwork here, which a lot of it is interesting because some of it will just be like text from like a log or a camera, which is like pretty nuts. It's very there are bits and pieces that are art focused, but I'd say it's just like more of like the concept itself and then the writing. So here's like Walter's plan, here's like camera footage, and it basically just takes a transcript of what everyone's saying. Then you have actual dialogue as well. It's just an interesting composition, so I'm enjoying it. I was leaning towards a 4.5, but it just wasn't quite as high as the first one, which I think is unfair because the first issue is like a borderline of 5. But I was expecting just kind of a faster pace here, and like that's looking out of like what's happening in the world. Like look at that destruction and devastation, just fire and flames all over the place. Insane. So yeah, that's Nice House on the Lake. Just get the trade. You're not going to start in issue number 2. Just get the trade. I can already tell that this is a banger, at least for volume 1. Go ahead and dive right in. I love Tynion. He's like World Tree is another book that I've talked about, which of course he wrote. Exquisite Corpses, which I've been reviewing. He also wrote as well. He really doesn't miss. There's this Christmas themed one that was incredible too. All this stuff is just dark and twisted. Horror. Man, I don't know if that man needs to see therapy or what, but stuff is wild. So from that, we're going to go into Rare Flavors, issue number 4. I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.5 as well. This is our trade. So I think we have 1 or 2 more issues after this one. Let's scroll on down and take a look here. Oh, that's right. I went to the actual series itself. Yeah, so it's 6 in total. So I just reviewed issue number 4. So for this book, we have Ruben. Ruben is a demon and he eats people. He's a cannibal. And we have 2 people who are hunting after him. But Ruben wants to tell this story of, I guess, his life, basically, and highlight a lot of food and culinary. And this takes place in India. So he links up this documentary filmer, director Mo, and they go off on this adventure. And each issue is about a Indian dish and why to savor it, and in the end Ruben ends up killing whoever prepared it and consuming them. So in the last issue, Mo, the director, found out that Ruben is indeed a demon and has been consuming people, and so he leaves and is like, screw this, but he decides to come back. And Ruben was tied up from these 2 bounty hunters that were going after him, and they finally got him, but Mo took a van, ran it through the wall, and freed Ruben. So now they're on the run. And Mo's trying to understand, like, who are you? Why do you do this? What is this all about? And so this issue just gives us the backstory of who Ruben is. And it talks about him. He was this great warrior, but then he was, like, exiled. And in his exile, he came back. And he was, like, slowly welcomed. But he was, like, so starving and hungry that he slowly developed a flavor for flesh. So then he was exiled again. And then the second exile is when he found a random merchant who would give him food constantly over the course of 40 years until suddenly he died. But he had a daughter, and her name was Monsi. And throughout the book, he keeps writing back to Monsi, who was, I guess, the restaurant, a little shop that he worked at for many, many years. And he basically came to the point now where like he missed the taste of flesh and was like looking for these deeper flavors. So that's why he left Monsi and is off on this adventure and linked up with Mo. So now we finally learned who actually Monsi is, as he was writing back to her all these issues. And so all that takes place and happens. And then they finish up their meal that they're having now, which is like a pot of like some sort of like curry dish thing. But Reuben does not consume the person that created this, which is great. So they drive off. Then the two bounty hunters, they catch up to the stall and they see that the person's still alive. So it's like, oh, okay, maybe Reuben's getting better. The other one says the other, yeah, but this is only going to last for so long. We still have to go after him. And then they ask the stall guy like where he went. So that's the cliffhanger. It's such an interesting book. Ram V crushes this one. So much fun. So the artwork here, I can finally show this off too. Like, it is so interesting. It's the same for each issue, so I don't want to go too far ahead in case I miss where it's at. But it'll show the recipe, and then it'll just have like, here are the instructions on the recipe itself. But it's so cool how it's like kind of like trippy acid kind of art style and drawing and coloring as well. And it's so like simplistic, but its simplicity makes it that much greater, right? The sum of its parts, almost like any good dish or recipe, right? When you think about it, it's so good. So yeah, Rare Flavors. Don't jump into issue number 4. Just get the trade. So good. Highly, highly recommended. And then we get to our last book here, which is Battle Chasers. Rare Flavors gave it a 4.5. League gave that a 4.5 as well. So Battle Chasers here, I don't have it graded up on the screen, but I would give the section that I read probably a 4. And again, it's not like clean breaks, so I really don't know what portions that I've read. But our story thus far is we have this girl, Gully. Her father died, but her father is like this crazy, incredible warrior, Aramis, and she's got these gauntlets that he had. And so there's this big, great fight towards the capital city. All of our heroes won. Then there was this thing called a barrow or something like that, and it's basically like an amalgamation of all these bones. Garrison, one of our heroes, fought them off. And so now, trying to figure out how can the king get the gauntlets. That's what he wants now. And so what we learn is that King wants Garrison to go after Red Monica. She freed this prisoner and is causing him a whole bunch of trouble, but he's refusing. Garrison goes off and he runs into Monica and her crew, but Monica's injured. And so they go to the nearest inn, try to figure out what their next plan is there. Then after that, I get to the part basically where we have Nolan and Calibretto. Nolan's a wizard. Calibretto's this mecha war golem. They meet up with Gully, and we get the backstory of all these characters. It almost looks like it was between the time that they all met up and the time that they first got to a castle. So it was like a bit of a flashback. We learn Garrison's story. We learn Calibretto's story. We learn Nolan's story. So Garrison, just a big warrior, kind of classic, traditional there. Nolan fought many battles on the battlefield, has more time on the battlefield than everyone else has living together. So he's just an old wizard. And then Calibretto was built for war, but some way he was able to reject that and like turned away from it. And now he mostly lives a life of peace for the most part, but he's like no, slave to the system or anything like that like he used to be. So that's the story. And so I'd imagine we're going to learn, I think I took a little peek that we learn about Garrison and Red Monica, their connection and how they met up in the first place and why they have each other's back throughout. So yeah, that is Battle Chasers. I am enjoying it so much. The artwork, phenomenal. I don't even know why. Oh, I know why I picked this up. I thought this was in the time where I was like, I'm just literally collecting any and everything. And I started with this book, and it's like, yeah, Battle Chasers is only 9 issues. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll go ahead and grab it. And it is awesome. First time I get to show off the artwork on this book as well, like on this channel. And it's I've mentioned before, if you play the video game Darksiders, it's the same artist who did the artwork in that. But the level of detail and the saturation, and it reminds me so much of like The Legend of Zelda. I love it so much. I'm really, really enjoying it. So yeah, that is Battle Chasers. Again, this part I probably would have given a 4. I don't really know where I'm at, but at least throughout the book it's been a 4, 4.5. And I would recommend this trade, which will be the whole volume 1 through 9, and then the newer books is just 3 issues, so you can find those, and I'm sure that they'll put together a little trade for that as well. That's probably already out, to be honest with you. So let's go ahead and recap everything, because that is 10 books for you. Go ahead and stack it up here. So we had Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue number 10. A confusing end to this one. I would not recommend, but yeah, at least we were able to read through it. Voyeur, issue number 2. We get Maddie's side of thing, and of this whole adventure, and things are starting to get hot and steamy. And then we got Emma Frost, The White Queen, issue number 2. Emma's still trying to figure out who the mole is. Batman and Robin, issue number 9. We finally know that, yes, the principal is Madame Harsh, but the teacher is Shush, and we're trying to free Batman. X-Men, number 20. Lundquist and Cyclops are fighting. Beast still trying to figure out, should he join 3K? Miles Morales, Spider-Man, issue number 34. Anansi's going to tell us about his previous Herald, and we are at a tie for the tournament with Anansi slightly in the lead. Storm, issue number 10, convoluted mess, but awesome on the artwork. The Nice House on the Lake, issue number 2. Still trying to figure out, is this real, is this not, and understand what all is happening here. But Walter has this grand plan. Rare Flavors, issue number 4. We got Ruben and Mo on the run. Finally learn about Ruben's backstory, but the bounty hunters are still after them. And then Battle Chasers, basically getting the backstory of all of our heroes thus far. So those are your books that we reviewed. Let's go ahead and flip over to the polls for next week. So those polls, not bad. 9. We can do that. We can handle that all day. No problem there. So we have Absolute Green Lantern, issue number 8. Absolute Superman, number 13. The Avengers, number 32. G.I. Joe, number 13. Huck, Big Bad World, issue number 6. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, issue number 40. That is going to be a backlog. Minor Arcana, number 11. Rook Exodus, number 8. Rook is freaking awesome. And Void Rivals, issue number 24. Void Rivals is awesome as well. So those are the books. Definitely looking forward to that. And, I have a feeling Absolute Superman is probably going to be the pick of the week. For me, I do like the Avengers a lot. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. But we'll have to see with the Avengers. With the whole Kang thing, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. And then G.I. Joe I've been liking a lot too. So actually a really good week when I think about it. Kind of across the board here. So as far as the rest of the show, or not the rest of the show, but plans for next week, right? So we'll be doing an Omega. So we'll get through I think it's 5 or so books that are still current, and then we'll have 5 additional books that we will have for our backlog. Then we'll kind of go into our regular cadence from there. So maybe we'll have some of these books on the regular issue. Maybe we'll get all of them. It just depends on whenever I'm able to get to the shop. Usually it's on Fridays these days, so we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I think we will go ahead and close it out. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Show's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Of course, you can now, again, see the YouTube on Saturday Morning Comic Review. You can find it there. All the books, of course, in the description where you can find me. Those are all in the descriptions as well from a social media perspective. But thanks again for tuning in. I do so very much appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next one.
Go, 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 go.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.